Alright, welcome to the studio. I thought today we would paint a nice truck. Here it is, sitting in the field. Looks really nice. I like these old rusty trucks. They're pretty cool. Got lots of stuff going for this picture. Nice background, a little grass in the foreground. So here we are. I've drawn my truck. Something nice to see. I'm going to start by painting the sky on this painting. I'm going to just wet my paper a little bit. Here we go. And then once I get my horizon in here nice and flat all the way across, I don't want my paper to look like it's leaning, or the world that I'm painting on to look like it's leaning to one side. Once I get that on there, I'm going to just put a little cerulean blue. I'm going to mix maybe just a bit of turquoise blue and a little bit of Payne's gray in there to dull my sky down a little bit. I don't want to paint the entire sky. I want to leave a little bit of white for some clouds to shine through, and I want my sky to get a little bit lighter as I get to the horizon line. So I'll just lighten that off a little bit. Here I am, I'm going back. I'm just putting on a little bit of Payne's gray into my sky. Again, to darken it up a little bit. I don't want it to be a bright sunny day. I want it to be kind of a little bit cloudy, a little bit overcast, maybe a fall day. The leaves on our painting, or the grasses, look like they're all brown and maybe died back for the winter. We don't have any snow on the ground, but it still looks like it's probably a little cool, and we don't have any leaves on the tree. What we do have, and I'm going to put on in just a second, are some pine trees in the far distant background. So I've got my sky about done here, and let me come in and just dab in. I've put a little bit of Windsor green with a little bit of ultramarine blue on there to knock back that green color a little bit. Windsor blue already has a little bit of blue, Windsor green already has a little bit of blue in it, so it will look kind of like it's in the distance just to start, but I'm going to put a little bit more blue in there. It's just going to push it back a little bit further. I'm not putting it in any additional shape or any specific shape. I just want it to grow kind of on its own organically in with the wet from the sky. And here we go. I think I'm going to give a little shot with a blow dryer just to dry that off ever so slightly. I'm not going to dry the entire thing bone dry. I want just a bit of dampness where my pine trees meet the horizon. I'm going to use that to connect the field in the far distance to the pine trees. If I have a little bleed over from one color to another, that'll be great. It'll look like one just runs right into the other. Okay, so here I go. I'm taking a little bit of brown, a little bit of yellow ochre, and let's see, it's Van Dyke brown, yellow ochre, and a little bit of orange oxide. That's going to be my basic field color. Again, I'm just going to take that right up to my horizon. I'm just going to touch my pine trees, my distant pine trees there. I do get a little bleeding, and again, that's okay. It will help to tie those two together. On the other side of the truck, I'm going to do the same thing, being very careful not to touch the truck itself. I want to go right around that. And I'm not worried about any real detail at this point. I just want to make sure that I get my field in there. I've got the right colors that I want. And I'm not actually too worried about lightening it all the way at the very back of the field. I'm going to put some color on. I'm going to put some weeds on in the foreground when I'm done with the field, and that's going to darken up the front a little bit. I'm just grabbing a smaller brush. It's going to help me get closer around the truck, around the windshield and the hood and the roof of the truck, just so I can make sure I've got the right shape. I don't want to paint into the truck, but I also don't want to leave any white lines in the grass that I don't have to use for highlights. Okay, here I am. I'm painting inside the windows. We can see through the truck. The windows are open. Well, one window's open anyways, but we still have a windshield, and we've got the door here and the rear, the door window and the rear window. So I want to make sure I paint that so we can see through it. I don't want to forget. And just touching up any white spots I've got. Alright, now going back right around the front of the truck, getting around the headlights, just down to the bumper. The truck is sitting pretty far down into the grass, so I don't have to do too much. Let's see. I think if I grab my big brush again, changing my color slightly, I'm going to add a little bit of a red tint to it so that it will pull it forward. Adding red in the foreground seems to bring the color forward just ever so slightly, or bring that part that's red forward ever so slightly. Here we go. I'm just blocking in some color, making sure I get it up around the side of the truck. I'm going to put in an indication of a few weeds here. I want to make sure I have those in there before I start to paint the truck. I can paint around those, or I can paint over some of those. It won't be too bad, and those are basically where the wheel wells are anyways. And there we go. I've got the field in there. Now I can start painting the truck itself. Going to mix up a little bit of blue and a little bit of green. And my palette is just off to the side, if you could see it at all. See, I'm cleaning my brush before I put it away. Maybe I should have just set it down. Here we go. A little bit of blue, a little bit of green. And mixing it up nicely. Let's see, where do I want to start? What do I want to do? What do I want to do? I'm looking, my field is still pretty damp, so I don't want to start too early and hit a part of it, hit a part of the yellow of the field, the brown of that field, so it will run into my truck. So I just want to be really careful how I do that. Okay, a little green, a little blue. Again, this is Windsor green, and I'm using kind of a terracotta color to show some rust. I want to make it a little different color than the field, but not too different. The rust has a brownish reddish color, and the terracotta really is pretty good for that. Okay, painting right on the hood itself. Many times I like to paint one area of the truck at a time, a hood, a fender, a door. That way when you're done with that, you're done with it, and before you move on to the next piece, if it dries and you don't have a wet edge, it won't matter. If you've painted to the edge of the door could have been painted, it could have been different from fading in a little different light, it doesn't matter, but you've got it painted as an individual unit. Okay, painting around a turn signal. Here, these old Ford trucks have a nice white kind of an area in there where their turn signals are set in. It's got a little bit of a white grill there too. Just going to paint around that ever so slightly. But up the front, again, using green and a little bit of blue in there, a little bit of cerulean blue, along with my Windsor green. And mixing that with my terracotta color that I'm using for the rust. Alright, down the front quarter panel and right up around that wheel well. There we go. I just let the colors blend in there. I'm going to come back and paint the shadow inside that wheel well in just a second, so I'm going to let it be. Okay, there's a nice dent that runs the full length of this truck all the way back. I'm going to get some of that right now. And I'm painting the rest of the hood of this truck where it swoops around just past the A-pillar, right underneath the door. I've got a door mirror One of the old white door mirrors that used to be on a lot of trucks. The big mirrors that you use when you haul something. I've got to paint around that. And I'm going to finish up going around the wheel well here. Good, that's good. Right there. All the way down to the bottom. And again, that on the bottom is going to get covered up with some weeds at some point. We're not going to worry too much about it. Okay, I'm going to vary my green and my terracotta and my blue in there. Again, I'm just laying on color. I could have used a little bigger brush than I use here, but I think this one works out nicely. Okay, I got part of the bed going. Painting the B-pillar at the back. There we are. And right down around the mirror. There we go. Alright, right around the rest of the hood that's done. There's the A-pillar on that side. I'm just starting to see where the door window is. You can see where the windshield is. Okay, right up around the door. There we go. That defines the driver's side door. I'm going to paint the roof line here. The roof, it's a nice line of terracotta right on the top. It's pretty rusted out. And just below that, put a nice bit of green. Those will kind of meld together a little bit, and that's going to look great. There we go, all the way around the front of the truck, to the side. Perfect. Okay, I just want to make sure I got the shape of that mirror just right. Down just behind the door. Paint the crack between the rear door, or the front door, and the bed of the truck. Here's the bed of the truck. I'm going to paint right over those weeds. We're going to go over them again with some other paint, so if they have a little bit of color on them, it's not going to matter. Now, what color to paint the inside of the bed? Well, I'm going to paint the inside of the bed black. This truck, I believe, has had the bed of the truck painted. So we're just going to put a little bit of black. Actually, this is Payne's gray with just a touch of blue in it. We're going to just stretch that paint out. We've got plenty there for the whole thing. Right along like that. Perfect. There we go. Nearly there. It looks like the bed of our truck is done. Alright, I'm going to come in. People have leaned over that rear fender quite a bit. There's a lot of rust there, so that bit of paint has quite a bit of brown in it. Now I'm going to go back and paint the windshield. At this point, the windshield bends around, so you see two pieces of glass. Actually, I'm going to paint that a very light blue and pull that color across the rest of the truck. It'll give just a little blue tint. I don't want it to be untinted color because we are looking through glass, but I don't want it to be too much that it looks like it's just blue color in there. Okay, in my truck, the driver's side window is open, so I'm not going to paint the window. I am going to paint the interior. Here we go. It's got a kind of a brown interior. Just paint that. I've got to get right around my mirror and make sure I don't paint over my rear window. There we go. There, now you can clearly see the mirror in the window. It is bright white. We're going to take care of that in just a second. I'm painting almost over the blue that I painted previously. It's going to make that brown just a slightly different color. It will look like it's behind a piece of glass, but I want to put it in there. Alright, and right up to the top. I don't want to leave any highlights on the inside of the truck. Now, I need to get a little bit of color on my brush and just touch. I don't want my mirror to be white. This truck is set out in the field, in the weather for quite a while. It needs a little color, so do the white portions, the grille, the turn signal cover. I don't want those to be white. Those need to have some kind of fading on them. And now I can paint the wheel well. This is ultramarine blue. A nice shadow color. I'm going to take it right up to the green and cover up all of the white that's inside that wheel well. There we go. I just grab it and pull it right on down, painting right over the weeds that we've put there before. When it's all said and done, those weeds will look like they've grown up from inside that wheel well. All right. Now, we're going to put a little bit more color on our mirror. It does have just a bit of texture to it, a little bit of shadow. Draw on my steering wheel. There it is. A couple of more things and we're done with this one. If we can do it, a little bit of detail in the turn signal. I need to get a little paint ready. I'm going to put in a few trees in the background. It's pretty stark out there. We could have some trees out there to add some interest in the background. It'll kind of set the middle ground. We have the background with the distance trees that have no detail to them at all. They're just blue-green and off in the distance. I'm going to put some little saplings in here. I'm going to make sure I put the trunk of them at different distances so they don't look like they're all in one line. I'm going to add some branches just to let it spread out a little bit, take up some of that space. Branches don't have to be perfect. Our eyes will tell us that they're branches. These are definitely saplings. They're not that big. They're just big enough to take up a little space for us and set a tone. There we go. Maybe just a little bit more. Some detail. Good, some extra branches. I'm going to widen out a couple of these tree trunks. Maybe another one in the center. I'm going to call that good for my trees. Now, the last major thing we have to tackle are the weeds, the reeds, the grasses that this truck is sitting in. I'm going to draw a few on here by hand, but I do have a better way to do this. I want to make sure I got a few really big ones in here, growing up from right around there. Good, good, good. A couple on the side. I want to push part of this truck back into the painting a little bit. Alright, there we go. Put a few in the front. I think I'll end up covering those up, but they'll add a little bit of texture. Alright, you could do this the whole time. Just continue to add, vary your color just a little bit, and keep going. But here's what I'm going to do. I've got an old stippling brush. It's made with boar's hair. It's quite stiff, and I can dab it into paint and just flick it up, touch the paper and flick it up, and it's actually going to add clumps of grass for us instead of doing them individually. I don't know how much grass I'm going to put on here, but this is a way to add big clumps of grass in a hurry without much thinking. It's basically drop it on the page where you want your grass to be, flick it up, and you've got a clump of grass. There we go. I need to get rid of some of that hard edge of the truck. Alright, getting there. Grass in the foreground. Maybe it's laying down in some places, a little sideways. The wind is kind of blown at it. There we go. Just want to get some right around that truck so it really looks like it's in that grass. And there we go. We're done. Here's our reference photo and our finished photo. They look pretty good. Alright, if you liked the video, give a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. I would love to see you again.